You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObsessive.com.
Hello, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast. This is episode 14. My name is Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor to TVObsessive.com. I am joined by Cameron Crane, my partner here, executive editor for TVObsessive.com. We're going to finish talking about Winning Time today. Cameron, when you found out the news, did you go sit in the shower with your clothes on and let the water just run over you in sorrow?
Yeah,
Yeah, me too.
I did. It was we'll talk about some of that, some of the details. I think hopefully it's of interest to people. I'm sitting here thinking like I think my personal experience is interesting for people, so hopefully they'll agree. But we'll hold off a bit on that. I mean, the headline that Winning Time has been canceled. That's not a spoiler. I guess that's a news item,
Yeah.
and that we're upset about it probably goes without saying, but we'll talk about in detail kind of how things went down, how this last episode played out, and all of that in the latter portion of the podcast. So, as per usual, right, this is our plan that in the first part of the pod here, we talk a bit about what's in the news, chat a little bit about what we've been watching lately in a spoiler free kind of way, before in the latter part digging in on something with spoilers. So that's Winning Time again this week, but start with news and notes, as it were. What caught your eye this week, Ryan? It's September 19th today as we record.
Yeah, that's right. I noticed, based on something we talked about last week, there have been a couple of about faces in the past few days between some talk show hosts, Drew Barrymore and Bill Maher specifically. Should also add Jennifer Hudson to the list if you knew she had a talk show and that she was going to plan on starting. But these people who were going to restart their shows with apparently scab writers have changed their minds. Does it surprise you? Were you what sort of
I mean, the Bill Maher one surprised me. Although, I mean, there's been kind of a bit of a roller coaster because everything with the Bill Maher aspect of this happened since we last recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, I think there were a couple other shows also. I don't know, things I don't watch,
Right.
but yeah, whether they were with scab writers or whether it's like other people are scabbing for the writers, who knows? But anyway, the pressure seemed to have been effective, and I find that interesting and good. I think it's positive from my own personal point of view. You had Drew Barrymore in the middle of this. She issued that really weird, like crying apology thing where she was like, I don't know, I don't think there's anything I can do to make this right. And well, lots of people on social media, myself included, said, Drew, there is kind of one big obvious thing you could do. And she did. And more than anything, I actually want to give kudos to Drew Barrymore. She listened and she changed her mind, and I think that's great. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be charitable. I'll presume that she thought what she was doing in the first place was okay, and then everyone told her it's not.
Yeah.
And she changed her mind, and that seemed in both directions a weird watershed, because it was after she said she was going to bring her show back that then you had Bill Maher saying, well, I'm going to bring my show back too. Like, he's just chomping at the bit. And I feel like as personalities, they're totally opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that, and I think again, you can look at this from two lenses. One is, oh, you had to do this because of the severe public pressure of you just making a terrible move. But no, let's just think of it as it took a while, but they finally decided to do the right thing. They came to the right decision.
I mean, I don't know about Maher. I think he was
yeah.
I'm going to be more cynical about Bill Maher. I'm not going to dig into him too hard here, but I definitely got the feeling that Bill Maher felt like Drew Barrymore had given him permission, and I was actually kind of surprised that he also pulled back and
Yeah.
that they're not doing real time. Although there is another aspect of this, and we don't have any tea to spill, as it were. But I wonder about their ability to get guests, because that could have been an aspect of the problem as well. You know what I mean? Like, Bill Maher saying, we're to come back. I'm not going to have a monologue or anything. I'm just going to talk to guests. Well, who's willing to come on the show and cross a picket line in order to be
Yeah.
on the show and also to attend the show, and how much that all fed into it.
Yeah, in my mind, that seems like to be a much bigger issue for Drew Barrymore. Marr, I admittedly have not watched his show in a long time, but he would always have political pundits and sort of these talking heads and things like that. And every once in a while, you get a comedian or an actor or something like that. But I mean, Drew Barrymore just sort of lived in the entertainment world with her talk show. Who's going to, as you said, cross that line to say, even if I'm authorized or allowed to do it, why would I put myself in this position to be on our show?
Well, I mean, look, on the politics side too, frankly, I mean, I know not everyone shares my politics. I'm putting my cards on the table here a little bit, but if they were holding Bill Maher and people were picketing it, and politicians were crossing a picket line in order to appear on his show, for me personally, that tells me everything about your politics I need to know.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not voting for you or anything like that. So yeah, it's a wrinkle. We don't know all the details, but it is also now apparently the WGA and the AMPTP are scheduled to meet tomorrow on Wednesday the 20th. We'll see what happens, right? I mean, it's just one hopes the AMPTP is finally willing to like meaningfully negotiate, I guess.
Yeah, and it also comes on the heels of apparently there were some pretty prominent showrunners that had said we are demanding a meeting with the AMPTP, and now that has been canceled because they've agreed to go back to the table with the WGA. And these guys basically saying, I don't know if they were threatening that they weren't going to work with these studios if they didn't get back to negotiating, but I think that was sort of the sentiment. So now, as you said, tomorrow, Wednesday, they'll be back at the table, hopefully for some good faith negotiations.
I'm feeling hopeful about it personally. I mean,
Yeah.
all told, it was a roller coaster of a week with the Drew Barrymore stuff and the Bill Maher stuff, but yeah, all told, at the end of it, the fact that the kind of the pressure worked, and now Drew Barrymore is not doing the show, that these shows that were going to go forward now aren't going to go forward. Seems like a power shift in the direction of the WGA at the end of this.
It does.
So
I also hope, I don't know, a little bit of the cynical side of me wonders, are these folks like Barrymore and Mark getting word that things might be close, and so they're willing to do the good PR move of, our show's gonna stay off because they know that an agreement is coming soon. So I sort of hate to think that way, but it's certainly possible.
I don't know. Just like, and again, I shouldn't dig into Marr too much, in particular because he did pull the decision back. But Bill Maher is a member of the WGA,
right?
That is, I mean, I don't know. When this stuff was breaking, I was preparing to come on here and say, well, are they going to have a disciplinary hearing? Are they going to revoke his membership? Because like that would have felt on the table to me. I don't know if they would have, that he's changed his mind. Now they're not doing it. So the point's moot, at least for the moment. And we'll see what happens with the negotiations, and if any news comes down the line. And then I presume one gets a definite feeling that it's kind of like WGA goes first sort of thing.
Yes.
And if they reach a deal, then one would expect a SAG-AFTRA deal to follow on the heels of that, I hope.
Yeah. And that's the thing I've seen all along. And it's not just because, everyone in SAG is this wealthy actor and they can afford to go second. It's far from the truth, but just that the writers who have been striking longer, who have some real fundamental and existential things that they're arguing for, they get their deal, then we can move forward with our SAG negotiation. So I think you're reading that the right way.
Yeah, it seems like. And I mean, I think maybe also SAG-AFTRA is willing to say, well, the writers, they've been on strike longer too, but that then we'll trust them to negotiate a good deal, and then that serves as the baseline and the sort of precedent for what the deal for the actors would look like. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. And yeah. So along these lines, we were talking about the strike auction. You see
Yeah.
this? A number of celebrity actors, also some writers and things like this, are auctioning off.
I am scrolling through
Books.
this right now, and I'm checking my bank account to see if I can afford the Jeremy Allen White signed the bear apron. I gotta have this. It benefits charity, so I can convince my wife this is a good
Yeah.
purchase. So yeah, I got my eye on it.
Of clothing, one thing that stood out to me was like Britt Marling's got the wolf sweatshirt from the OA, which I love the OA, but honestly, like it's not like I'd ever wear it. Would anyone wear it? I mean, what do you do? This would also be kind of weird. Like you put it in a glass case in your house or something, and because most people would look at that and be like, "What is that?"
Yeah, yeah.
Also stood out to me the doing a crossword with Natasha Leone. That sounds
I
like
love
it
it.
would just be fabulous. And of course, personally, I can't afford any of this stuff, so I don't
Right.
even really look at the prices.
Same here. Same here. I'm worried if I won the Adam Scott walks your dog for 1 hour that my wife would go on that and not come back. So I'm not going to bid on that one.
I think it's John Lithgow wants to paint your dog. Was that one of them?
Yes, it is.
Call me,
Yes,
I'm
it is.
brain fart or something, but I read that totally the wrong way at first. It's like, why are you painting a dog? Like as though he was going to be brushing paint onto the body of a dog, and no, he will like make a portrait of your dog.
Yeah, no, all
Which is
this to a
not.
good cause going to, I guess both SAG and WGA strikers, from what I can tell. Am I wrong?
Yeah, yeah, I believe that's right. And oh, we'll put the link in the show notes and things like that. I don't know, people listening to this have potentially thousands of dollars
Yeah,
or whatever to but support the people on strike. And oh, it's kind of cool. I mean, I have seen some funny parody ones too that have been floating around
yes.
social media, and I don't know, it's a good time. So
Well, speaking of strike, I found this interesting only because I sat on the couch last night and watched Monday Night Football, but surely because ABC has nothing to fill their Monday nights, they have now ordered a full run of Monday Night Football on both ESPN and ABC this fall. So they're going to carry the
oh,
games every week. It'll be sort of a cross promotion deal. Obviously, this is all owned by Disney, but ABC is showing Monday Night Football for
are
16 more weeks in the fall.
are they doing two games every week?
They did that last night. They're doing it next week, but I think that it ends after that.
I hope so, because I don't care for it.
I hated it. I
I was just,
absolutely
what do you're either flipping back and forth between two channels, or you're like putting one on the TV and pulling up the
hated
other one on your
it.
computer and trying to watch two games at once. I don't. It's funny because on Sunday I like to watch Red Zone, but
Oh yeah.
that's just like constantly jumping between action or whatever. And yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
like the two games at once. Also, another terrible injury that made
Oh
me sick to
gosh.
my stomach in an enduring way with Nick Chubb going down last night.
Yeah, there was, I mean, a very niche debate I saw going on last night as to whether stations like ESPN or their reporters have an obligation to show the replay. They decided not to show the replay of this horrific injury, and
They
should they
weren't
or should they not
showing.
show it?
Yeah, they did not show the angle that I ultimately saw
Yeah,
online. And I mean, I guess that's a general TV type question that would be in our wheelhouse or whatever, but I don't know. What do you think? I'm frankly, call me old fashioned, but I'm kind of on board with them deciding to not show that on the broadcast.
I, I I agree with you, and if that's something you want to see, it's not hard to find on social media. So yeah, I'm fine with them making that decision. That
Hard to avoid, if anything,
exactly,
if you use Twitter and you're following sports accounts and stuff like that. It was all over the place. So
exactly right.
I'm gonna, yeah, I don't think that I don't think they need to show that. I mean, I don't know if it was Joe Theismann level, but it was getting close.
It was certainly close, certainly gruesome. But anyway, we'll see Monday Night Football on ABC so they can fill their content for the rest of Rest of the fall.
Yeah, they got that. They got what, like Dancing with the Stars, and I don't know what else they've got going on. They've got
Oh
a
yeah,
bunch of stuff like that, though.
did you see this trailer for this show? This is just I mean, this is outside of our notes. The Golden Bachelor. Did you see this trailer last night?
No, I wasn't paying attention.
What do you what do you think the Golden Bachelor is?
I'm pretty sure I've read about this, and I think it's like an old guy.
Yes,
I
seniors, Bachelor for seniors.
mean, I don't know what the other options are here, but I don't know why they're. I don't know. Is that
I
cool
mean,
to
they
use
got
golden?
yeah. I mean, hey, it was a charming, good-looking guy from the trailer, and frankly, I'm probably closer to that age than I am the regular Bachelor contestant. So I can't knock it too hard.
Right, right. What are they going to bring back, like Joe Millionaire and stuff like that?
I love
Uh,
Joe Millionaire, man.
that was such a
That was
weird
that was
show.
a great show.
It was such a weird premise for a show.
Oh, well, I guess
Uh,
continuing on the Disney side of things, here's something interesting. You found that on the Star Wars beat as well, that the series that was going to run with Donald Glover as Lando has now been turned into one of the few upcoming Star Wars movies.
yeah, it
That
looks like it's going to be a movie.
yeah,
Things are, I mean, a little up in the air, a little unsettled, in part because the strikes are going on.
yeah.
But yeah, an interesting tie-in here. I mentioned Pablo Torre Finds Out last week, which I've been
Hmm.
watching and enjoying, and he kind of broke this story basically with having Steven Glover on, right? Um, he just like said it, but it was funny to me because I saw it coming from Pablo Torre, and then I saw all these other outlets like Variety picking it up, and I was like, oh, did Pablo Torre break this story? And apparently, yes. So it's kind of been out there that they were going to make this Lando series,
Right.
and apparently now, it's come out that looks like it's going to be just a movie.
Yeah, well, the reason why I find that most interesting is because the Disney execs had announced two specific Star Wars movies. One looking at the origins of the Jedi. One looking at Rey from the most recent trilogy and her ascension as sort of a leader and a trainer of Jedi. But they said there would be more, but they hadn't given any details. So now apparently Stephen Glover is announcing the details of one of those. So I mean, all these things are speculative, and who knows what year we'll actually see these movies. But hey, that's good for all of us Star Wars nerds.
Yeah, you want a Lando? Did they already make a Lando movie? This is how out of touch I am with Star Wars. Did they
No,
make a Lando movie?
Lando appeared, Donald Glover as Lando appeared in the Solo spinoff movie, like a young Harrison Ford, or not the young Harrison Ford, young Han Solo.
Right. It wasn't Harrison Ford. It was some other
Right.
guy. People didn't care for it.
No.
Weirdo Star Wars fans like, give us a super de-aged Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so I think this has just been like kind of in the ether for a while that they were going to
Yes.
do the Lando
Yes. I mean,
thing.
that
Yeah.
movie's 5 years old now. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been out there percolating.
It's interesting to me that Donald Glover is into it. I don't
You
know
know,
why that it just.
he kind of apparently he really latched on to the sort of suave playboy, don't can't really tell who he is or what he does type of character of Lando Calrissian. I think he even started talking about how he was going to explore that character's sexuality and sort of how he really
Yes.
was going to dive into some deep things with Lando, and he just sort of fell in love with it, and now he wants to keep
Nice.
playing the character. So hey, good. That's one of the
I
hottest stars around, and you've got him.
I get it. I'm very intrigued by the comment of exploring his sexuality. Now I just want to see. I actually do want it to be a show, and I want it to be just like Lando chilling in Cloud City, right? And he's like pansexual,
Yep.
and I'm presuming he's pansexual. That's it. That's in my head canon. I think Lando Calrissian
That's
is
exactly what it
pansexual.
is, and in that universe, you have to include droids in that. Apparently, that was part of the rumors.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, so we'll see when that happens. Presuming it does happen, probably not for a while. Everyone's on strike. Hopefully that ends soon. And yeah. So speaking of Star Wars, Ahsoka, we were gonna check back in on this. The theatrical experience level.
Yeah,
How did you feel about that? last week.
I wanted to touch on fifth episode of Ahsoka from last week. Obviously, episode 6 airs tonight on the 19th, but this was the episode that had been hyped for so long that had a limited theatrical run in a few cities. My thoughts about the episode are up on the site right now if anyone wants to go take a look at that. But I've also spent a lot of time digging into what people thought, people that saw it in theaters, people that watched at home, people that had experience with Star Wars, people that didn't have experience with Star Wars. And I think sort of the conclusion that I've come to is that this was a very, maybe more so than any episode of a Star Wars show, a very cinematic event. I mean, it was majestic. It was wide ranging. It was powerful. It was very compelling, at least in terms of what you would see on the screen. But it was also deep, deep, deep in the lore, particularly of the animated shows. So it landed with me because it was something where I recently had experience with those, and something that I think really hit in terms of some of the emotional notes of that. But yeah, you kind of really have to have some experience there to really, I think, get the powerful punch they were looking to land with this episode. It was a very good episode. It really sort of pulled on a lot of nostalgic heartstrings, but maybe didn't quite live up to the hype of the content as I think it did the hype of the visual experience, if that makes sense.
Interesting, yeah. But so in short, what I'm hearing is, would it have been worth seeing on the big screen? Yes, but only if you were totally steeped in the show, totally steeped in the lore behind the show. I mean, or at least watching this show.
Yeah,
I guess, right? Like, so that's kind of interesting to me that they would put it in theaters if it really does depend on you being right up to date, right up to speed with this show. And I wonder how those screenings went.
Yeah, and I would say, just not to get into spoilers of the show, there was an aspect of it where you're with the main character in a certain sort of part of the universe, I'll say, that's sort of as spoiler free as I can put it. And then there's another part, and that stuff is incredibly compelling and interesting. And there's another part where you're with a group of people searching for that main character. And that part is interesting, but certainly less compelling. And I think it would have been more powerful if it had just been this complete sort of episode that focused solely on this sense of the main character, what was happening to her, how she was being tested. There's sort of some jumps back and forth that made it a little bit clunky. Still great to see. Looked great on my big TV. I'm sure it looked wonderful on the movie screen, but just a little bit clunky in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean based on I've read your article because I edited it. Yeah, I haven't watched the show. I follow you. Yeah, I see what you mean. That would have maybe been better. I don't know. I don't watch the show. Yeah. I don't know why I'm weighing in. But I was curious.
Let me also say, because there was some good commentary on this, and there are other people that have said this much more expertly than I have. Probably the most creative and innovative uses of the volume that we have seen, right? This idea of they're in this sort of circular thing that you can make look like anything. Really good job using that technology to make an interesting television episode.
Well, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully people who went to the theater enjoyed it. What else have you been watching lately? I don't really have anything new on my end.
Yeah, I think I did before, I think this time last week, is I finally got around to binge watching the first season of Welcome to Wrexham, which was FX on Hulu documentary, I guess, about Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney buying a fifth-tier football club in Wrexham, Wales. And I had no idea what to expect. I'm not really a football fan, as it were, an English football fan. But it was surprisingly good, perhaps because, as we've talked a lot about with Winning Time, there was a really good balance of what these guys are doing off the pitch and inside the community, and what's happening with the drama of the team. There's no secret. They're trying to get this team to move up tiers in the English soccer system. And the good balance of both of those. And the second season started last week. I think the second episode comes out tonight, Tuesday the 19th. So yeah, I was very, very impressed with it when I really had no expectations going in.
Well, yeah, maybe I should catch up with that. It's been on my radar. I thought it looked kind of interesting when it was coming out
Yeah.
last year. I want to say last year.
Yeah, it was it's following the football seasons. So the first season follows the 21-22 English football season, and then the season that just started looks back to 22-23 football season. And apparently there were 16 episodes in the first season. Apparently there's only going to be 6 or 7, which is odd for this one, but so far so good, as last week was the first one.
Interesting. Yeah, may have to check it out. And just to be clear for all of our American listeners, which I presume is probably most people, we're talking about soccer here.
That's right.
The whole world calls it football practically. Although I mean there is some, soccer comes from associated football, right? And there's there's some credence to the idea of calling it soccer, although it's mostly an American thing, I guess. But cool, yeah. May need to check that one out at some point. Anything else you want to hit on here, or should we get to winning time?
That's all I've been doing apart from winning time. So yeah, I think we should get into this finale.
Okay, so yeah, on the other side of a little break here, we're going to dig into the season finale, which ended up being a series finale, probably almost certainly of Winning Time would be season 2, episode 7. So just to note, all spoilers are on the table on the other side of our little break here. We'll be right back to talk about Winning Time.
Okay, we are back looking at episode 7 of season 2 of Winning Time. As Cameron said, the season and probably series finale for this show on HBO, entitled What Is and What Should Never Be. This episode looked at the 1984 NBA Finals, the first matchup in years between the Los Angeles Lakers, which this series has followed, and the hated Boston Celtics. Yeah, but this was not just then, but also now, is a must watch, must go back and view event for NBA fans. Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird, all the intrigue and drama from this series. Lakers stealing game 1, which we saw in episode 1 of this season. Magic and his sort of frozen what do I do at the end of game 2, hard fouls, the what's called the air conditioning game in Boston on game 5, a comeback in the Lakers in game 7. Just a really compelling series that ultimately was not meant to be the finale of this show, but now that it is, there was some changes made to the end. Cameron, you had screeners before this aired and noticed some things that were different. So perhaps we'll get into that. But in terms of a wrap up, that's what we got.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we should start there since you mentioned it. I had screeners for the show, but I was watching week to week and I wasn't getting too terribly far ahead. I wanted to be on the same schedule as you, basically. But I did kind of get into the habit of watching it on Tuesday night because we would record the previous week. Like, we've been talking about Winning Time. I'm thinking about Winning Time. Then like listen back and, edit the podcast and post it. And like, I'm thinking about Winning Time. I'm like, oh no, that's the next Winning Time, So I watched it on last Tuesday night. And it wasn't very polished. It wasn't completely polished, I should say, which isn't entirely out of the ordinary for screeners. I mean, most of them actually aren't quite like this, but having kind of this before, there are little notes. Like at one point, it's like add VFX for Celtics championship banners, stuff like this.
Yep.
And I get to the end, and it just goes to black and it says end credits, right? But the striking thing is that happened right after Magic was sitting there in the shower. And so I'm thinking, man, if this show is canceled, this is going to be like ending Star Wars with Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly.
You know, this is the bad guys win. Sorry, Bostonians and Celtics, you're the bad guys in this show.
Right.
You just are. No hard feelings. And but so then a couple days go by, and I get an email, and they say they've updated the screener. It was like Friday, and emphasis on this note of make sure review coverage is of the new screener.
Mm-hmm.
You go and look, like, this is a couple minutes longer, and they had at that point tacked on that scene with Jerry and Jeannie Buss sitting on the floor of the forum, and then also, of course, the closing montage, as it were, set to Pat Benatar's "In the Shadow of the Night."
It was interesting as someone that was watching it in real time. HBO, I mean, the moment the episode ended, announced that it was canceled. There was an immediate interview up on Vulture with the showrunners and the directors, sort of looking at the show and what they knew and why they had to film these extra scenes, which apparently they did back in January. So this was a decision made some time ago. We've made reference to Jeff Pearlman tweeting a couple times about the numbers, but it's almost like this thing was a sinking ship from, could have been weeks or months ago. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, and what their metrics were in terms of making the decision, it was out there as a possibility. I mean, I don't have any behind the scene details beyond what I've kind of just shared, but it was pretty clear to me watching it on the updated screener on Friday night. I was like, oh, they know they've been canceled. Like, how else do you read into that? And as you said, on Sunday, it was pretty immediate after the show aired that these articles came out and the interviews and things like that, and you got official confirmation. At the same time, though, they updated the screener on Friday. So, like, when did they actually for sure make the decision? I mean, we don't know, but they were prepared for it. And it's a bummer, man. It's a bummer, and I have to say that having experienced those two versions, it would have been fairly powerful to end it where they ended it and not tack something on. I mean, it would have been awful,
right?
But it would have been like, oh my God, I can't believe they canceled the show and left us in this moment. And there's part of me that almost wishes they'd just done that.
It did feel very tacked on, very, let's rush to give you the history, since we called the show, the Lakers building a dynasty. So it did feel that way. I would have loved to know that there was going to be a season 3 and see a season 2 end with, like you said, Luke, I'm your father, chop your hand off. How devastating it would have been to see that end of the finals in 84, knowing what was going to come in 85, 87, 88, all the things that were about to come.
I mean, and just narratively, you get the speech from Pat Riley, leave it all out there, however he puts it exactly.
Unfinished business.
No unfinished business. But there is. Because, I mean, in the background of that, I think it was in the previous episode, after they won the Western Conference Finals, where you got the speech of, well, we have to beat the Celtics. People call it this age-old rivalry. It's not a rivalry because we've never won.
Yeah.
And
Jerry Buss's words in that episode, even though they had won 2 of the last 3 finals, were, we're a flash in the pan and we're nothing until we beat Boston.
Right. And so we end with them losing to Boston. We end with them losing to Boston, and then get it tagged on happily ever after. It's I don't know. All that being said, I've had Pat Benatar stuck in my head for a couple of days, and like it was pretty good. I enjoyed. I was
Yeah.
trying to look up. Again, we're about the same age, so I'll just ask you this: did it land for you like it did for me, where it felt like such an exemplary '80s movie ending?
Mm. I, you think about the pretty iconic 80s movies and how they end, Breakfast Club jumps to mind. But yeah, there's just these iconic ballads just right there at the either roll over some kind of montage or credits. And yeah, it did feel like that. I mean, they were gonna obviously pull out a pretty, banging 80s song to do that. And they I think they chose right.
It worked well. I'll
Yeah.
give them that. And
Yeah.
this is the thing, right? I feel like there were even more '80s movies that we saw when we were kids that did this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And these aren't the kinds of movies you remember 30 years later. Like all of these kind of like not very good movies,
Yeah.
you know, where they would end with this kind of um also the title cards that tell you what happened to people later.
Yep.
That totally fell out of fashion and then only comes back anymore, it feels like, on the level of something like parody,
Mm.
which I think is what we get here, although I might call it homage instead,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
something like parody. It's not, there's a winking to it, you know? Whereas I feel like when maybe it was because I was a kid, but I feel like when I was a kid, it was like they would seriously do this
Yes.
with
Yes.
with a straight face. Like the movie would end and then they put up things that tell you about what happens to people later in their lives.
I
Like,
mean, we've talked about this before, that just the visuals and the camera styles and the cinematography of this show just made it feel like it was straight out of that era and how well they did with that. So yeah, I mean, if you're
yeah,
gonna put something together on the back end, last minute, last month, who knows? They at least stay consistent.
clearly work went into it and they had it ready,
Yeah.
and they filmed these scenes months ago. They filmed them prior to the strikes and everything. If anyone's worried about that, that's
Yeah.
that's totally confirmed. They had it in the back pocket, because they'd gotten this heads up like before the season started. They'd gotten this heads up, that if this doesn't go well, we're going to cancel you. So
Yeah.
like maybe be prepared for that. And um yeah, no, I want to know from what you were saying. I've said it many times, I think, over the past 7 weeks. I love
Hmm.
the style of the show so
Yeah.
much. I've seen some people criticizing it or whatever, or thinking it's unnecessary. And like, I don't know, man. If you want a straightforward treatment,
Yeah.
go watch some documentaries or something like
Yep.
that. But the way that they did this like heavily stylized version, I've just thoroughly enjoyed throughout, and I thought the show was so much fun. I don't know that there's any chance in the world that this gets picked up by some other network. I think IndieWire just this afternoon was saying they put out an article saying Showtime should buy it and rename it Showtime.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't feel plausible to me though. It just
No,
for whatever
no.
reason it just doesn't feel plausible. We're just grasping at straws.
I don't see it short of one of these. What's the show recently? Manifest esque groundswell movements from its fans that really are going to push it forward. I just don't see it.
It doesn't feel like you're going to get that from this,
No.
you know. And
Yeah.
if
Like you
the
said, why don't people just go watch the game on YouTube? If you want to know what happened in the game, you go watch it on YouTube.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. The tacked on ending
Yeah.
undermines that it'd be weird to move it forward. I mean, you could imagine it happening. I think here's what you would do. You'd say, "Oh, we got a third season." You do the
Hmm.
third season, and then down the line, when you like release the box set, you take away the tacked off ending or something. It becomes a special feature on the box set or something.
Yeah.
Like you could theoretically do it, but it doesn't feel like there's that kind of momentum. It's a shame. We were also talking about how it's kind of weird when they released it. I don't know if we really hit that point on here before, but it is weird. Something like
Yeah.
a basketball dead zone when they released the basketball show.
Yeah. There is there is no way to tie in any NBA crossover. There's no way to get your stars involved in anything related. No Chuck and Kenny and Shaq talking about it. There's no, no anything that you can do from a basketball perspective to have people be interested in basketball right now. All people care about in September, October is football and baseball playoffs, right? It's just not the
Mhm.
time to do it. And they released the first season at the end of March Madness, NBA playoffs, and they just didn't choose to give it that time slot this time.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, we have to admit the strikes hurt. I think the on the
Yep.
promotional front, the lack of promotional front, that um I saw Quincy Isaiah plays Magic Johnson, right? Saw him on the Rich Eisen show during the airing of the show, and yeah, like they're not talking about winning time because he's not allowed to, and kind of a
It
bummer.
hurt.
It's just a
It
bummer
hurt.
all around
Yep.
because it
Yeah.
was great, and the cast on the show was so great, and yeah,
They were. I mean, established stars, up and comers. It was a really strong mix. Going to be sad to say goodbye to it. Just in terms of the actual episode, what worked for you, what didn't. Basically it was six finals games is what we got. A little bit of off court stuff, but how did the episode land with you?
I mean, it worked for me really well. I don't know about you. We should follow through our general kind of plan, fact checking some stuff. Although basically,
Hmm.
almost everything that I checked on seemed to pan out on this one.
Yep.
Um, except there is the other plot line where Honey is suing Jerry Buss, and of course, Honey's not a real person, so that obviously
Right.
is not like straightforwardly true.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything to indicate that this scenario with the reporters outside of his house was like an event that happened.
Yeah.
I,
Nor can we confirm, I think, that while the finals were going on, he was having to split time between finals games and in lawyers' offices, sort of negotiating these things. That just was, I think, there
yeah,
for
I
the
couldn't
drama.
confirm anything on that. I mean, it seemed like maybe it's reasonable speculation. I mean, also like were was ownership of the Lakers really at risk? Was
Mm,
bankruptcy a real risk because of lawsuits that occurred? Um, just I don't know for sure, but I mean, we do know that he was sued, not for $100 million. I think it was $25 million, which is
yeah,
still like a
yeah.
lot of money. Um, but I jumped to that in part because some of the stuff around that still I thought was very good television. Um, the scene where Claire rips into him,
Hmm.
Gabby Hoffman. We haven't talked about her character very much. Real person, and so on.
Yep.
And that was really striking. Her cursing Jerry Buss out and saying, this is my life.
Yeah.
And that was a really powerful scene. And also, really, the one where Jeannie comes to his house and then they go to the game together. Both those scenes I thought were really well done, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, it was good, and it sort of speaks to the some of the criticisms you and I've had were that in across an episode, they would have sometimes done six or seven different storylines. This seemed to be the basketball and Jerry's personal life jumping back and forth. And that did work with me because it sort of set different stakes at different levels. And I was able to sort of keep that tone back and forth between the two. Sometimes when they would try to do five, six different things plus phone calls between Cookie and Magic, just didn't always land. But this one
Yeah.
I thought they did well.
Well, and thematically, it's sort of a piece too,
Hmm.
in some contrast to what we were saying about last week's episode. It's crisis, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's the crisis of the Lakers on the court and off the court, and the crisis of
exactly.
Jerry Buss as the owner, and then also some movement of increasing kind of solidarity again with Jeannie and Jerry. But yeah, I mean, things are really everything's coming to a kind of crisis moment. And it's
Yeah.
precisely like this is not where it's supposed to end. This is again, it's like classical story structure. You're ending after act two. That's what you're doing. That classical structure of like act one, the good guys win, act two, setbacks. Oh no, the bad guys won. And then you've got act three.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what the original Star Wars does, but it's not alone. Like go to the opera.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it sucks. I'm so pissed about it.
But I'm really upset about it too. I did enjoy this show for any of its small flaws we thought it had. I really did enjoy it. Let me ask you one other question, and this may or may not have made a difference in the long run, considering what they were apparently planning back in January when they filmed these things. So season 1, 10 episodes covering one season, Magic's rookie season, finals at the end, the famous game where he subs in, plays center for Kareem. They win the championship. Season 2, 7 episodes, 4 seasons of basketball.
Mm.
Do you think that trying to sort of pressure cook all of that over a short time frame, that sort of did that help, hurt? Would it have made a difference if they'd focused just on one season? How do you think that would have impacted it?
I don't know because I didn't revisit all of season one recently.
Yeah.
But so while it might be some recency bias or something, um, I kind of feel like season two is better than season one. I thought season one was quite good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would have liked season two to maybe have at least another episode, at least like one more episode. As we
I
talked
agree.
about last week. Last week in particular, felt like they were cramming a whole lot into that penultimate episode, and going
Exactly.
at least a little bit slower would have been good. But I get the story structure, and that's the thing. I think it works that Act Two ends on the downer note when they finally face the Celtics in 1984 and they lose, right? And then you would expect Act Three to swing it back around to when they finally beat the Celtics.
Yeah.
So,
That's actually a good point, because if season 2 is we beat the 76ers again,
yeah,
that's the ending. It's like, okay, well, we've done that. The logical place to end the second season is we get our rivals and we can't get over that hill.
yeah, I think so. Let's run through some of this fact check stuff though, because some of it I just found amusing in its apparent truthfulness. I guess we'll just go in order of the notes we have here. I don't know. Kareem getting a migraine before Game 6. Apparently, he suffered from migraines quite significantly for quite a long time.
That's right. Yeah, I do think that's right.
Through his playing career, and I did see something where like maybe he found a better way to deal with them, but like later, maybe in the 90s or something, even after he was done playing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so Abdul-Jabbar is old in this season. It's last several seasons left to go that he keeps playing after this.
Yeah, old in basketball terms, anyway. By True. Now he's probably old, and it's probably fair to call him old in general terms now.
Yeah.
But but yeah, in particular before Game 6, that's a real thing. I found news stories confirming that the big hit on Rambus. Of course, this is true.
Yes.
Right. I've got a link to an article, perhaps put in the show note. The Rambus Youth. I wasn't aware of the Rambus Youth. Were you aware of the Rambus Youth?
I was not, but apparently he became sort of a cult figure among the young people of LA. And this was just an all Pat Riley thing, inserting him in the starting lineup. He was supposed to be a nobody, but yeah, people fell in love with him.
It's true, because didn't Paul Westhead want to cut him, at least in the show?
Yep.
And I saw Jeff Pearlman. One of the things he said was that he would have liked to see more Rambus.
Yes.
I don't know a lot about Rambus, man, but I'm fascinated. What I did read here, so the Rambus Youth were a real thing, and Rambus is actually wearing corrective lenses, which I'm sure. I mean, he's wearing glasses.
Yes.
What I'm saying, and I'm sure there are any number of pro athletes now who need corrective lenses and wear contacts, and it was like, you just don't know. I think I can even vaguely recall seeing sometimes when like someone has to put a contact lens back in or something.
Right.
But it became this thing in part because of how he looked and wore glasses. And apparently the Rambus Youth started being a thing. And what I read was at first he thought they were making fun of him. but no, this is like, I mean, I don't know. This feels like a really like a precursor to hipsters or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
here in the early 80s. Um,
And Kurt Rambis and Eric Dickerson, the president and vice president of the wearing glasses while you play suits star
yeah,
athletes. So there you go.
yeah. Which I get it. I wear
Yeah.
glasses. I tried wearing contacts for a bit, and I didn't really like how they felt in my eye, and I had them fall out here and there. And I don't like contacts. I much prefer wearing glasses. I don't know if I'd wear glasses if I was playing professional basketball, or that sort of thing. I guess in the open, we hit on the thing, the temperature at Boston Garden in Game 5. The air conditioning was indeed out, right? And this is
Yeah.
true.
This is more of like a general thing. They just did not air condition that place quite often when games were going on. So in February, March, April in Boston that didn't matter, but apparently this was an exceptionally hot May or early June game. I think they just made the Boston the Celtics
You
had gotten used to this, but by the time the Lakers got there, this was just suffocating for them.
Well, so maybe I didn't dig into this quite deep enough. Did they even have air conditioning? Was the building air conditioned? Was it possible? Or was it
Oh,
just like, hey, this was an early 80s
I would
thing
have
where it wasn't quite that widespread yet? And it's not usually too hot in
yeah.
Boston. Yeah, I
I
didn't dig
can't
into
say this
that one.
with 100% level of confidence, but I want to say that it air conditioning wasn't needed in that old Boston Garden, because there was like I said, the games were played in November through April usually, and there wasn't a
Yeah.
need for AC. I want to say that there was not air conditioning capability in that building, although I'd have to fact check myself now as I say that.
Yeah. Sorry, we pushed it too far. We didn't do enough research. I'll put something at least in the article that we published that goes up on the website with the
Yeah.
podcast. Well, I'll try to look into this more. We put that up. But you call the AC game in our notes here, so I don't know.
Yeah.
No confirmation about the thing about the only hot water. Did you? There's a scene where
That seemed to me like a
I think
creative
that's
license. Yeah.
yeah, that's creative license. I'm pretty sure that's creative license. Um,
Okay.
mm,
Boston.com, a review of the old Boston Garden before it was torn down. The major flaw in the building is a lack of air conditioning. So it did not have air conditioning
okay, so the
according to
building just
Boston
did not
Garden.
have air. See, I
Yeah.
realized that's actually more plausible, and somehow it didn't even really occur to me at first because, yeah, I mean, air conditioning did not used to be as widespread by any means, and we could go
Yeah.
off on a tangent about global warming, perhaps, but um, yeah, and one thing I love is this is totally a tangent, but it used to be the case that New York City in August, everyone just like left.
Yes.
Not everyone, because not everyone could afford to, but it happens in Mad Men, for example, where it was just a general thing. We're like, oh, it's August, that's too hot, and go to the Hamptons or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would just shut that thing down for like the entire month of August because it was too hot in like the 60s. Anyhow, um, Bill Lambier gets a mention. I saw someone
Yeah.
online complaining about this. I don't think it's anachronistic because they came out in the same draft, and there is tons of evidence that Larry Bird and Bill Lambier hate each other.
Yeah. I mean, Bill Laimbeer didn't have many friends in the league to begin with, but I think he and Larry Bird had an exceptionally bad rivalry, especially as the 80s went along and the
Yeah,
Pistons got to be to the level they were, and Lambier just went to another level of nastiness on
yeah,
against opponents.
the bad boys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the claim about anachronism, and so I don't know. It's like, hey, Larry, did you already really hate Bill Lambier in 1984? But I think it's plausible, and um, I don't know. I looked into some stuff about that, and yeah, I mean, particularly given how Larry Bird is presented in this episode in
Mm-hmm.
particular, let me throw out there for everyone that Larry Bird hates Bill Lambier because he's a dirty player.
Right.
That's so like there's a line Larry Bird is drawing
Yeah, that he won't
of
drop.
saying
Yeah.
we play hard. Even that like Kevin McHale thing, like this is
Right.
rough. We're in the trenches or whatever. But he's like Bill Lambier's trying to hurt people, and that's
Yeah.
not okay. And it's like,
Larry
yeah,
Bird, at least in this episode, telling his teammate, if you apologize to him, I'll break your neck.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So
Bill
it's
Lambier goes farther than that. Yeah.
which now I'm pulling mostly on my own personal memory. I don't know that that's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
but I was a fan of the Bad Boy Pistons in the late 1980s as a kid, and I
Yeah.
mean they were called the Bad Boys for a reason, you
Exactly.
know. And Bill Lampier was pretty central to that. Also, Dennis Rodman and Isaiah Thomas and Vinnie
Yeah.
Johnston and John Sally. And that's
Yeah.
another thing that are privacy. Well, I mean, I don't know if they would have really made the Pistons characters, but if they'd gone on long enough, it would have had to have shifted to the
Yeah. I mean,
Pistons, I
remember
guess.
the whole series started in 1991 with Magic Johnson and the HIV
Yeah,
announcement.
that was
Sure,
our
they would.
previous speculation.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking now about, man, they really ignored the Sixers. So,
Yeah.
you know, the punches, I confirmed the Rambus punch. I did not confirm the Kareem punch. We got text on screen saying, yes, this really happened.
Yeah.
The Rambus punch happened, and I've got a little link here in our show notes from the guy who sued him over it. So that all checks out.
Good.
But yeah, I didn't find any confirmation about the Kareem punching someone, which also happens in that scene.
No, not. I mean, this is another, I guess Larry Bird practicing in jeans and boots that we're going to have to take at face value that it happened and they said it happened.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, at least I didn't find anything. No one sued him over this, at least, but someone did sue Rambus over it. But here's a little nugget that came out reading about this. The guy that Rambus punched was trying to take his jersey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And like this guy in the little article I was reading about it, he was saying, yeah, that was dumb. Try to take Superman's cape, you know. Also confirmed the bit of dialogue. I checked an actual bit of dialogue because Bird was talking to the press as he said this in the episode. He really did say these things. He really did call his teammates sissies, and he said that they need 12 heart transplants. That is verifiable, quoted in the press, and you can find it by searching the internet.
This more than anything else you've said, I 100% believe that he would have said this.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, again, what's creative license? What isn't? I just thought it went so far, and I'm sitting here going like, he's talking to reporters, but we've seen previously in the season some stuff where people were talking to reporters, but it didn't pan out like this, and so I thought it was striking. I did a little, Google foo, and it was like, oh, yeah, there's Bird saying exactly that. That's
yeah. And this is just part of, what I'll miss most about the show. Often, just the truth being stranger than fiction sometimes, and how they were able to incorporate some of what actually happened into some of this creative stuff. So it really is too bad that this is coming to a close.
Yeah, I guess this is where we leave it. Anything else you want to hit on?
No, I think that's it for winning time.
I guess that's it for
winning
winning
the archives
time.
forever.
Now and forever. And
Yeah.
next thing we know, they'll pull it off of Max and never release any physical media copies, and it will become a myth that one day there was a show.
We've seen that happen before.
Well, I mean, they in fairness, they put some stuff to pass and stuff like that. I don't know if we've quite seen things disappear into the abyss yet, but it seems to be happening. All right, so moving forward from here, Ryan and I have decided that we are going to move to talk about standout episodes of TV that we love, older TV for the next couple of months before we're going to pick up with Fargo, but that's not till November. And there's not quite as much new fall TV, at least not as much new fall TV as we want to spend time talking about each week. So we're going to hit on standout TV episodes, or you want to call it Mount Rushmore? That's what you want to do?
Well, we're each taking 4 over the next 8 weeks. So I was trying to think of the thing that incorporates a group of four, and that was the best I could come up with.
Yeah, you've said this before. I've heard other people use the term. Sure, right? But so we got battling Mount Rushmores.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Does it
We'll
work?
put the faces up there and see which one's best. That's what we should do. We should if you come up with four different ones, we should poll, the readers who's got the better four.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. So I think we'll go back and forth, but we're going to start next week with one of Ryan's choices, which is kind of cheating.
Yeah, it's really cheating.
Because it's 3 episodes. Exodus from Lost. There's 3 parts to that. We'll dig in on all 3 of them to get us going here. We both have seen that. We've both seen Lost.
Yes.
But we did decide here that we're not going to worry about that. So potentially we're going to make each other watch things from shows we haven't seen.
Yeah.
I think that could be quite fun. There's only one thing on your list I haven't seen, and I find myself thinking, like, maybe I'll just watch that episode.
Yeah. Well, if it's the one I'm thinking about it, then you definitely should. But I'd be happy to watch an episode out of context if it's supposed to be that good.
Yeah, right. I mean, to be clear, just watch that episode as opposed to give myself more context before I get to it, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll keep it, sort of a surprise. We'll do Lost next week, and then going from there, I guess we'll go to one of mine for the week after that, and we'll go back and forth.
Right. Yeah. So next week, watch Lost, the episode Exodus, part 1, 2, and 3. These are the last 3 of season 1. And we will discuss Lost, maybe our experiences with Lost, how this episode hits, why I chose a 3-in-1, to really cheat in this first time, and we're going to dive into Exodus from Lost next week.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. And so everyone listening, if you haven't seen it, watch it, and potentially feel free to do as we're probably going to do. See, because here's the thing. I also think, Ryan, I'm just going to hit you with some stuff from some shows I know you haven't seen.
That's what I was worried about.
I think I'm going to do it, and I feel bad about it. But like, I can't. So, but I think that might be fun. I think it might be fun. So, the people listening along, we would encourage you to at least watch that episode prior to us talking about it. But it should be a good time. So, all right. As always, thanks for listening. Check out the website, tvobsessive.com. Lots of good stuff there for you to read. You can follow us on social media, TV Obsessive. I'm Caemeron CC on Twitter. Ryan's at Cable Box Score. There's a YouTube for TV Obsessive, which I encourage people to go and press like buttons and subscribe. And there's not a ton of subscribers on the YouTube, but the podcast will show up there with some kind of low budget video. So, but if you want to use YouTube as a way to access this, and of course, available on Spotify and various podcast apps that people use, please do leave a positive review, all that good stuff. Much appreciated. And I guess that's about it.
Yeah, really enjoy getting to go through Winning Time with you, and we'll pick back up with a little fun couple episodes of Lost next week.
All right. Now, I wish in your imaginations we'll close by dropping Pat Benatar, The Shadows of the Night.
I expect you to drop it in.